Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack open a text from way back in 1968 that, believe it or not, holds a secret to why our world so often behaves in surprising, and let's be honest, counterintuitive ways. It's called Principles of Systems by Forrester, and it's all about a hidden engine that drives everything from market crashes to viral videos. So, let's dive right in with a puzzle. It's a pattern I guarantee you've seen before, everywhere. A huge boom followed by a bust. You know, that explosive growth and then a sudden stall or even a total collapse. So why is it that when something, a company, an economy, whatever is growing, it doesn't just smoothly cruise to its goal? Why does it so often overshoot the mark, then swing wildly back and forth, or even worse, just fall apart? You'd think the smooth path would be the logical one, right? But it's almost never what actually happens. Okay, check this out. These two graphs from Forrester's work, they tell the whole story. On the left, you've got a system that just smoothly reaches its goal, no drama. But on the right, with just one small change, a delay, the exact same system goes completely off the rails. It wildly overshoots its target, it crashes, and it gets stuck in this chaotic boom and bust cycle. Same goal, same parts, but a totally different, unstable behavior. So what is going on here? Well, here is Forrester's brilliant insight. We've all been looking in the wrong place. The problem isn't some broken part or some random shock from the outside. The wild behavior is actually generated by the system's own internal structure, that invisible web of connections and delays that ties the whole thing together. So what is this secret structure? What's the engine that's causing all this complex, messy behavior? Well, it all comes down to a single, incredibly powerful concept, the feedback loop. In really simple terms, a feedback loop is just how a system gets information about itself. The result of something you did in the past circles all the way back around to influence what you're going to do next. It's the basic mechanism through which any system learns and adjusts. It's that simple. And this diagram right here, it illustrates that core idea perfectly. Every single decision we make, it's happening inside one of these loops. The flow is totally circular. The current state of things, what Forrester calls a level, that gives you information which leads to a decision. That decision triggers an action, which then changes the level, and the whole cycle starts all over again. You know, think about something as simple as driving a car. You're constantly observing your position in the lane, that's the level. You compare that to your goal, which is to be in the center. Based on that gap, you make a tiny decision to turn the wheel, that's your action. And that action changes your position, and you immediately start the whole process over again. It's just this constant flowing cycle. Okay, now here's where it gets really, really powerful. This one simple structure is basically responsible for almost all the dynamic behavior we see in the entire world. And it does all this with just two fundamental flavors. First up, you've got negative feedback loops. And don't let the name fool you. Negative here just means balancing. These are the stabilizers. They're goal-seeking, always trying to close a gap, kind of like a thermostat keeping your room at the right temperature. Then you have positive feedback loops. These are the accelerators. They just amplify change and create these huge snowball effects that lead to exponential growth or sometimes total collapse. Here's a classic stabilizing loop, right from the book. The goal is to keep a certain amount of inventory. So if your inventory gets too low, well, you order more. If it's too high, you order less. The system is just constantly working to correct itself and get back to its target. It's all about finding balance. Now, in complete contrast, you've got this, a runaway amplifying loop. The more salespeople you have, the more sales you make. The more sales you make, the more money you have to hire. You guessed it, even more salespeople. Success just breeds more success, creating this incredible exponential growth. Okay, but here's the absolute crucial point. In the real world, these loops never, ever operate in isolation. A real system is this complex web of interconnected positive and negative loops, all pushing and pulling against each other at the same time. This is where the engine of growth smashes right into the brakes of limitation. So let's look at this beautiful model of a growing company. Over on the left, you see that positive feedback loop. That's our growth engine, hiring more and more salespeople. But as sales grow, orders start to pile up, creating a backlog. This kicks in the negative feedback loop on the right. Delivery delays get longer, customers start getting unhappy, sales aren't as effective, and suddenly, growth slows way down. And what's the result of that engine hitting those brakes? You get this, the classic S-shaped growth curve. You see that rapid exponential growth at the beginning, driven by the positive loop. But then it's followed by a slowdown and a leveling off as that negative limiting loop takes over. Growth didn't stop because of some outside competitor. It stopped because the system's own success created its own limits. And this, right here, brings us all the way back to our first puzzle. That wild wobble we saw, that's caused by simple delays in the negative feedback loop. The system is trying to correct itself, but it's acting on old information. By the time the correction actually kicks in, the whole situation is changed, leading to a massive overcorrection in the other direction. It's kind of like a person in the shower who turns the knob too far, gets scalded, then yanks it way too far the other way and gets frozen. You know, as Forrester himself put it, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a picture of dynamic behavior is worth 10,000 numbers. Seeing these structures, seeing the shape of the behavior, gives us an insight that just drowning in data points never ever could. The shape tells the story of the hidden structure. All right, so let's zoom out. Why does a book from 1968 still matter so much? Well, because this way of thinking is an absolutely indispensable tool for making sense of our incredibly complex world today. Just think about it for a second. The bullwhip effect in supply chains, that's just oscillation from feedback delays. A viral video, that is a classic positive feedback loop. Financial market bubbles and crashes, that's a positive loop of rising prices and speculation that inevitably hits a limit and activates a balancing loop, usually a pretty brutal one. These are not separate problems. They are all governed by the same underlying systemic structures. So if there's one thing you should take away from all this, it's this. The messy, the unpredictable, the often frustrating behavior we see all around us is not random. It emerges logically and predictably from the interplay of these simple feedback loops. All that complexity is born from a simple structure. So the next time you see a boom and a bust, or a problem that just seems hopelessly stuck, or a moment of just incredible runaway success, stop for a second and ask yourself, what are the hidden loops at play here? What's the engine and what are the brakes? Because learning to see these structures, well, that's the first step toward truly understanding and maybe even changing the world we all live in.